You're live! Woo!
Hello! Welcome to Cosmic Tea Hour 999. I wanted to introduce Kristen and Theresa, Hayley, and of course the eccentric astrologer, me, Peter Marks. Welcome to the Hours of
Hi,
Mars
welcome
show.
to another wonderful episode.
Absolutely. I also wanted to mention to everybody, if you're feeling a little verklempt, a little unbalanced, a little confused, welcome to the club. So am I. Everybody's going through the same thing right now.
Denise says hi. So tonight we have a fun-filled episode ready and waiting for you. We have been going through a lot of changes this year, which we started mentioning at the end of the year. And what I will say, just because I've seen it in action, our podcast can sometimes be spontaneous. Peter usually has a stack of readings. He's been in the business for 45 years, and he has trusted clients that reach out to him on a daily basis. And we have to kind of work our schedules together for everyone to get onto the same page. I put together the events, put together different things. So what I will say is that if you hit our subscribe button, that you will get notifications for when we are on and when we are live, because sometimes we don't know that we're going live until we're sitting here together saying, you ready to go live? We do the best we can to pull together. So that being said, if you want the updates to know when we're going to go live, hit the subscribe button and follow along with us. We are on the spiritual train into Ascension Land.
Yes. Yes.
So tonight we were talking about deep diving into 2025's astrology, particularly where we are at right now. What does it mean for us? And how are we going to navigate what's happening and hold our head above it rather than get lost in it? So Peter, where would you like to start, honey? There's a lot to cover.
Well, what I wanted to say, I wanted to cover actually, and I had to write it down, the key astrological events for 2025. Now, Mars is retrograde from December 6th of 2024 through February 23rd of 2025. What does that mean? That Mars appears to be going retrograde, meaning, and right now it's in the sign of divine Cancer. So, what does that mean? It means if you're not feeling totally yourself and you're very sensitive and you're feeling as if you're not quite who you feel yourself to be, with Cancer comes Capricorn. So people would be focused in on getting in touch with themselves, going within, meditation, healing. So to give you a tidbit, that's where Mars is, and in order to determine where all the planets are in your chart, you're going to have to call for a reading. All right, this is on a universal level. Okay.
I want like a Ghostbuster backpack with like Peter Marks on it.
Literally just thinking about that.
Ghostbusters.
Yes. So we also have Venus. Venus is in the sign. Yes, it's in the sign of Pisces retrograde from March 1st until April 12th of 2025. All right, what does it mean when Venus is in Pisces? It means that you're going to be very sentimental. You're going to feel very, very romantic. You're going to want that candlelight dinner. You're going to want to be with that special someone. And to determine where you are right now, where your Venus is, you're going to have to call for a reading. So we're going to cover that. Okay. Now we have lunar north node shift from Pisces to Virgo. And according to my ephemeris, that's the astrological book, it has moved into Pisces and Virgo. What does that mean? Pisces is very nurturing. It's very nurturing. It's a very nurturing sign. It's giving, it's loving, it's wanting to make other people happy. So that is going to be from March 1st until April 12th of 2025. You want to know? Oh, that's all right. That's going to be, started January 11th, and it's going to be there, I believe. It's going to be there for quite until the guys just told me 2026.
I have
Okay,
questions right here before you continue, because the polarities, the
go
North
ahead.
Node,
If you have
South
a
Node.
question, ask Hayley. Right, go ahead.
I will. You know, there's like, you're not the only astrologer in the room. No kidding. You're just my favorite. I love you.
Thank you. I
So
love you too, honey.
Hayley, not talking to Peter right now. He told me to ask a different astrologer. Hayley, can you tell us what that North Node, South Node polarity has going on?
The North Node is what's being brought in, and where we're heading. And then the South Node is what we're being asked to kind of let go of. And the manner in which, like, to shift into releasing Virgo it's a fun one for me with the Virgo rising. But and to shift into more of a flow of Pisces, and maybe not having all of the intricate details, but still moving forward and just kind of flowing into what's coming. And that's the axis is always like the polarity between them. So going from somebody who's very, Virgo energy is very detail oriented, very, I have all my ducks in a row. I need to know exactly everything and how it's going to play out, and then choose from that, to Pisces, which is much more one foot on the ground, one foot in the sky. It's a very big, to have that shift from where they were positioned prior will be a bit shell shocking, I think, initially, while we integrate that energy and like, what do we need to let go of, and what's coming up, what patterns of thinking have we just automated that are in that Virgo area that then need to be shifted into a more fluid state. And integrating that will be a roller coaster a bit in the beginning.
I love how you said that.
It's also going into a sign where we're going to be much more relaxed. We're not going to be as intense. We're not going to be as driven. It's more of a relaxed sign where we will accept ourselves. We will accept other people in society. It's also a correction in the chart where we will realize that we can achieve things at our own pace. So I just wanted to interject that.
And we're moving out of Aries. I have some Aries in my chart, but I feel very impacted by that. You and I both do, Peter, with that Aries being there. Even if, like, I have Aries, I have Libra, I have a lot of Sag. So to me, that Aries Libra was really a strong part of my last year. And now as it moves into Pisces and Virgo, I'm like, bye. Don't let the door hit you on your way out. See you later. Thank you.
Exactly.
But I do feel like there's a little bit of an integration period right now where we are moving from an Aries energy into a Pisces energy. We went from rah, intense fire, Martian ways of doing things into Pisces. Pisces is that encompasser of all things. All the signs, all the energy. So aside from being that sign of nurturing, it's also a sign. Guest appearance by Lucy. She decided to stop by. She's been waiting for her guest appearance on Cosmic Hour.
I have a talent agent for her. I wanted to introduce her to.
Astrology Pause is the new podcast. Astro Pause.
She's not barking up the wrong tree right now. Go ahead.
It's interesting too, because going from Aries to Pisces is like that counterintuitive, turning back of the wheel, whereas normally we're going from Pisces to Aries, and the nodes, it's the reverse. So
yeah, that's a good point too. That's why I said I feel like there's a whiplash, because Pisces is that soft, compassionate, whole spectrum, which is why I think Neptune has a lot to do with it. Neptune being that planet where we can really be into psychic mysticism, or we tap into escapism. And I think those are themes that we'll probably see a decent amount of, especially because it's part of the stellium. We have Saturn, Venus, Neptune, North Node, all making that stellium over in Pisces right now. That's a lot. Saturn, that structure, I thought it was interesting when Pisces went into Saturn to begin with, because that Saturn is all about structure. And when it's in a pattern, and when it's in a planet or an energy that has a lot of groundedness to it, we feel the firmness of that structure. But Saturn is not at its best when it's in Pisces. It's almost like the castle that floats in midair, so to speak.
And also the South Node being in Virgo, that's where you could tend to lean into that. And that's what we're releasing. We're really heading into that flow state.
Which really does go with the themes of 2025 and all the energy that we're dealing with right now. It's like we thought this out when we did it.
Yeah. What's also happening right now, and I was given this information from a friend of mine that has connections with UFO hybrid beings, is we're actually in the age of Aquarius that we're not going to go over again, but we have new technology that alien beings are actually coming back to the earth to teach us how we can assist ourselves in healing, in light workers, dealing with light workers. So a lot of people that I know that are in massage therapy and therapeutic touch are gaining more knowledge about healing and really finding out how to prevent certain diseases and actually how to heal themselves if they're open to working with light workers. So we're at an amazing time right now on this planet. I also wanted to mention, because I do work with a woman that is world renowned in healing, we, the spiritual people that are enlightened, are going towards a new earth, and people that aren't so enlightened will be staying here.
That's right. And that's something that we
we're
talk
in
about
that
a lot.
process. Yes.
I thought you were going to say, we now have technology to see that the alien race came in and started a podcast called Cosmic Tea Hour. I was following you the whole way through, Peter.
No, that's Astro.
We are all hybrids. We're all hybrids here. We've lived many, many lifetimes on different planets. So without a doubt, we are hybrids, and we're teaching, and we're going to be examples for people that are not as highly enlightened.
Or just a different type of experiences. Peter, speaking of which, how is your celebrating your 28th birthday that just passed?
On my 28th birthday, I went out with my extended family to dinner. We ate, we had an amazing time, and then I was taken on a tour of where I grew up, and it was a phenomenal evening.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm glad you had a good time.
Yes, absolutely. So I did have a wonderful time. And even coming back here, it's nice to see where my roots are or were, but I've also felt changes within myself. And some people say it's not so great to grow, to experience where you've lived as a teenager and partially as an adult, but the energy is wonderful here and I'm enjoying it.
There you go. That's good. I'm glad. Okay, so
yes,
I interrupted you to speak about the polarities, just so like they could be clear. Hayley, you did a great job explaining that. Peter, please do not let me hold you back. Please proceed.
Oh, I did want to say, and I also wanted to go through this. We have Aries and Libra, which is polarity. Aries and Libra. Then we have Taurus and Scorpio. The third would be Gemini, and the opposite sign of Gemini would be Virgo. Okay. And then we have, where am I now? First, second, third, fourth, Cancer and Capricorn. So what I'm demonstrating here, not going to go through the whole zodiac, but in our charts, we have those polarities, which actually whatever our chart looks like, and I want to explain this. We're not just our sun sign. We are made up of 12 different signs in our natal chart. And if you don't know that, again, come and have a reading with any of us.
Yeah,
who are you gonna call?
you know that.
But it's important that you know the astrological natal chart and which planets rule your sign, because then you will be given the totality of who you are when you decided to come into this lifestyle. Hayley, did you want to add to that, dear?
I think a lot of people don't pay, or it's a more advanced astrology to start looking into the axis of all of the signs and how they interplay, and strengths and different, like that balance between them, because they all have their light and their dark presentations too. So the axis really brings that up, and that's where the north and south node really comes into play. And it's a bigger thing than most people realize. When you just say, hey, I'm a Taurus sun, there's so much more that you need to call Peter now for your booking your appointment for 2025.
Thank you for reading, man.
Oh, everybody. I did want to tell you this. When I started off, a lot of people said to me, I don't believe in astrology. I think it's bogus, whatever. And then I started contacting doctors and lawyers and very educated people. And on the QT, they all said to me they believed in astrology and astronomy. So Albert Einstein, I believe in it. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, the Vanderbilts, the Whitneys, the Rothschilds, the Kennedys, even the Reagans believed in it. So today, if you can't really find out who you are or the totality of the cosmic realm without really studying it or going to a gifted reader. And I wanted to tell everybody we are all gifted in our own areas, and when we come together, you will be blown away with witnessing how gifted Theresa and Kristen and Hayley and a little bit of me. So you really need
so modest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think it's something not a lot of people realize too. Like you think just, an astrologer, a tarot reader, this certain gifts. And we don't realize that everybody, based on their placements, based on their experiences, and their focuses, they all have different lenses in which they see your chart, and that is whoever you're drawn to. Actually, you're drawn to the lens in which that they are going to perceive your chart. So you're going to get information from every single one of the astrologers, every single one of the readers. It's just which ones you're called to in order to process the current information and messages that you're supposed to get. And that's what the beauty of this kind of, I don't want to say industry is, but the reality of this practice. Yeah.
You're the hub of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I agree with you. And I'm glad you made that point. There's two more points I wanted to put in here. One is, although I do believe that there is a huge impact that astrology has on our lives, I do not believe that it is the end all be all. And the fun thing is that, core memory I have of Peter is his friend is arguing with him about how impactful astrology is to life. They decide to go to a casino. Peter has developed this knowing of when to go to the casino because it's going to hit. He develops it so he knows at 8:23 p.m. he's going to hit. He brings his friend with him who is telling him that astrology is not real. And they're back and forth, and he's letting them kind of just share their experience about how they don't believe astrology is real. And he counts down to 8:23 p.m. He pulls the lever and he wins a jackpot. And he goes, "What were you saying about astrology?" So it's been a very good experience where the three of us or four of us rather, who are sitting here with you right now.
Yeah.
We've experienced how important astrology can be to one's life, but we've also experienced that we are cosmic beings out of Christ conscious energy. We'll call it source, we'll call it our creator. Out of that energy pool, which is more infinite and impactful than any astrology, numerology presence that there is. So you don't need to do one to have the other, but have taking part in these things. They're all tools, whether it's a crystal, astrology, Reiki, they're all different tools for you to utilize. And it is important who you go to, because it's who you're resonating with. What energy are they resonating in? Where are you resonating in? What's the cocktail? I've been read by all three of these people here with you right now, and every person has given me a different vantage point of the same situation when I was in something. You don't want to overload yourself where you can't get into your own interior guidance. You have to have that, but it has been really nice to have this resource of community that we've built together, and say, and all of us say, hey, can you give me your insight on this? Even right before this show, we sat on this one chart and all of us brought up different vantage points about this chart, enough to come into this podcast and bring it to you and say, well, here's what I think is really impacting or matters. And Peter says the same. And then Hayley joins in, then Chris joins in. The only reason Chris even showed up, this is a gift. You may not see her for another 5 years. Groundhog's Day came early. She socializes with no one. So the fact that she's here right now is to celebrate how much she loves astrology and this community. It's a big deal.
Wow.
Take pictures now. She'll be signing autographs at the end.
Wonderful to have her. So I did also want to mention the other two things are Neptune enters Aries on March 30th of 2025, and Saturn transits Aries on May 24th of 2025. That would be a conjunction. What? It says Neptune enters Aries.
Yeah.
Let me double check in my book.
Yeah, March 30th.
Let me check in the book. All right.
Peter is like this wizard. I just expect him to start wearing a robe soon with one of those tall hats. He's got all those books. Potions will be coming 2025.
We're all gonna dress in our previous incarnations, and that will be in the shaman, medicine woman.
But with all of this, it really is a balancing. It does represent a balancing, and that's where the aliens, that's where astrologers, light workers and astrologers, we need more balancing in our society. And I think that's truly where we're heading.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're just going to coin you the wizard, Peter. Denise has agreed.
Okay, I'll accept it. I will accept it.
Merlin Marks 2025.
Merlin Marks.
But, you know, it's true. We are going into a very much more enlightening time. And the one thing I'm trying to do is see more of Mother Earth and trying to treat the earth in a much more enlightening way, and for all of us to come together on these podcasts to really balance each other out. And the most important thing that we're here for is to teach and to love one another and to respect one another.
Agreed. Peter, while you're talking about Mother Nature, can you please speak about the elements of astrology, how they tie in together?
Well, the elements of astrology have been around for over 2,000 years. It predates even the Bible. But our modern astrology, that I call it, the Greeks actually revised modern astrology, and they actually created it based on the constellations. So I have been studying Greek astrology for years now. And through the centuries, the Catholic Church, it was inextricably connected to the church at one time, and the church did believe in astrologies. They consulted with them, but over time, the church decided that it wanted to become a little bit more powerful than it was, and it banned astrology and started considering it to be witchcraft, started calling it that it was from the devil. I have realized numerology and astrology together have been around for thousands of years. How did it survive? If there's no merit to astrology and numerology and other sciences, how did it survive?
I
So
agree with you.
that's
Also,
what got
too,
me.
sorry to cut you off, Peter.
No,
You
that's
see the
okay.
power. When you think about it, anything that's ever been powerful, and I'm not saying anything negative about church life, but you see, like, so half the stories about Jesus, Mary Magdalene, there was astrology, numerology. If there was any competition at that time, they didn't want it. They didn't want something that was powerful. Pagans can't worship the land. You need to be on this side or that side, or death is the outcome. Pick your place. At this time, at that point in time, we had a lot of extra resources that people were fighting over that have manifested their way to here. But you're exactly right. That's why a lot of these communities, what esoteric communities until recently, and the fact that now we recently can have this conversation only goes to further prove how Earth is moving through the photon belt and rising up into the astral plane, because we can have these conversations now and they're pretty widely accepted.
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt. They are widely, and a lot of people that are enmeshed in religion are afraid to believe in astrology. And I don't worship astrology. I enjoy it, but it's not the only science or pseudoscience out there. There's many different sciences. So I embrace it. It helps me understand a lot more that is going on a global level, but I am not enmeshed in it like somebody would be in Scientology or Seven-Day Adventists. I mean, not to say there's anything the matter with those religions, but I don't pontificate astrology being my only belief.
Right, right. So, Peter, I mean, I'm glad that we all agree and we all mentioned that, source is the ruling authority over all things and everyone. But can we
Yeah,
come back to the validity of astrology? So, the elements, the fire, water, earth, air elements, how do they
yeah.
play a role in astrology? And what can we use an astrology chart for? Like, why would I come to you to get a reading? I know why, I personally do, but what would you say the reading is doing for someone?
The reading is going to, I'm thinking about this. The reading is going to provide a person with the negative and positive aspects in their life. It will tell them why their personality is particularly that they ended up like that when they were born. Astrology can explain illnesses and where they manifested. The main thing is it's a map of the heavens when you're born, and it will give you insights that psychics can tune in, but I wanted to say psychologists and psychiatrists. I actually did a reading months ago for a very well known psychologist, and the psychologist said to me, I am blown away. How did you know all these things about me? And I said, my spirit guides and looking at your natal chart. And he said, that psychologist is now enrolled in a school to understand his personality and his clients. And that's why Carl Jung, who was a very famous psychologist, decided that he was going to study it. How it totally works, and I'm going to be honest with you, we don't totally know. We do know that if you set up a natal chart and you analyze it, I use my spirit guides to facilitate and help interpret it. But many times when I sit down with a client and I say your Jupiter is squaring your Uranus, they look at me and they go, "What the hell are you talking about?"
I just met you. Buy me dinner first, you rude old man. No.
Yeah, they said, "Don't get so personal with me." And so it is a science, and it does guide you. The best thing I can say is it guides you, and it will direct you in a trajectory that you will understand cosmically how universal laws work.
Right.
Yeah, because I use the natal chart with universal laws, and we are born in this life with universal laws. So it does help to raise the consciousness, and it does give us the axiom of what our life purpose is and what areas in the chart we have to work on in order to, and as you very succinctly said it, Hayley, with the north and south node, we look at the south node of where we've been, and then we look at the north node of where we're heading.
Yeah, that dovetails into past life. Sorry, Haley, I just wanted to mention this one thing to expound on that. There was a person I did an astrology reading for, looked over the chart. They actually had a suicide experience where they succeeded. They were out for a few minutes and came back, and you were able to look at where Saturn was placed in the chart, and the placement translated to live life twice. And they said that there was a definitive marking in that birth chart that was going to have this point in beginning and this point in after. So we can really learn abusive parents, trauma, experiences like this. These are interlaced into the birth charts, and these are things like if you're stuck, it's good to find your way out of it. Seeing the energy that's there. Hayley, what's your experience?
I have to. So much is coming out that I'm like, you can see my camera shaking because I'm just like, okay. So much to touch on all of these things. The and my experience or understanding that we are so our soul exists in a collective oneness, and then when we are choose. In my belief, we choose the moment in which we are coming into this world and the different elements within it, and then we forget it, right? When we tap into, so the way to tap back into that, I see it as circles. So there's the soul energy, and that doesn't change. That's all kind of all knowing, all existing. Time doesn't. And then we have the incarnation in this world, this human duality, and the incarnation is the natal chart, which is the journey, the teaching, the lessons, and the experiences that you're going to have. And we do have also free will and things that come into play, but it's like setting the map of the location and the things, and then how you're going to interact with them or how they present can vary. But an astrologer and taking a look into your natal chart really shows you that, like Peter was saying, like that, it offers insight into the map of the heavens the moment you were born. And that's important because we chose that map. We chose these experiences in order to learn the lessons in this incarnation that we wanted to. And to tie back into the nodal axis and the elements, I mean, when there's a nodal shift, we're shifting from when there's an axis shift, the axes work on fire and air, masculine energies, and then they shift into earth and water, the feminine energies. And right now we went from, that's another thing that's a big thing to process or to feel, is to go from Aries into Pisces. Is like going from fire into water. And it's just like, woo, like it puts the flames out a bit, and it's like, okay, now we're focusing on something else. And now we're moving in a slower, more in the flow, tapped in, and then we're also shifting that south node into a very grounded. I mean, it's going from grounding to, how do I go from both being feminine energies, the Virgo and the Cancer? I mean, Pisces. And it's how do we now pull apart those elements? So they are not just they're both feminine, but like, what are the differences between them? And what can I learn from each one of those? And then when the nodes shift around to the opposite way, and then we are north node facing Virgo and south node facing Pisces, what does that mean? And what can we take from that? And everybody's chart has a different, and we chose it again. Everybody's chart has a different balancing of these energies, or a presentation of these energies. And an astrologer can help you understand if they're tying into the elements. They're able to help you with balancing out those elements that you may not contain a lot of, or you do contain a lot of. So for me personally, I have grand trines, earth and water. So I'm very much on, I'm a Taurus sun and Cancer moon and, Virgo rising. I'm very, very earthy.
She's feeling this right now.
Yeah. And I'm like, oof, man, thank goodness that fire got put out for a minute, because like I needed that fire, but I need a minute. Like, let me just swim around here.
I'm like, my fire. Where'd my fire go? Oh my God.
And then, so it's all like, so somebody else might have a chart where it's like, woof, very earthy, very, very earthy and very fire, or very fire and very air. And then their challenge is because everybody has every element. And that's something that not everyone understands. Everybody has every element, every sign in their chart. So even if you have nothing in a certain sign, it doesn't mean that doesn't present in your life. So for me, I have Leo rules my 12th house, but I have no planets in it. That still is very significant. Yes. And that's a fire sign in your 12th house. And Leo presents a different way than Aries would. And these are things that it seems like an overwhelming amount of information, and astrologers spend the better part of their lives. Most of them, when you get into astrology, it's like I'm diving in, man. Like, you don't get
Peter, he was in there studying for a half hour.
You're just like with your coffee and your cigarette, and you're like, all right, so.
That's why I'm so eccentric.
20, 30 years of their life, or their entire life, they have chosen in this incarnation to be very into astrology to help guide those with the presentation of their maps and their journeys and all of these things. It's just all connected, and it's all about, like Peter said, balance. It's about balancing the elements in your chart. It's about balancing the energies. It's about balancing, like, your mission might be to learn about emotions, and then that might mean you have no things in, no major planets in water, or it might mean you have a lot of challenges in those areas that in the chart, like against certain planets. And there's just so much to know about astrology that you could spend an entire lifetime learning, or you can pick up the phone and you can call Peter. And Peter will say, all right.
I wanted to mention to everybody, I've got a T-square in my chart. And a T-square is when one planet is in opposition to two planets. And it's in a cardinal sign. So for me, I've got to work. Even if I was a millionaire, I've got to achieve something. And I have spoken to celebrities who also have the T-square, and it triggers off my whole chart. So when I achieve something, I've got to go on to the next level. The other thing I wanted to also say to you is I found a signature in a natal chart. And the signature that I found out, every time I see it in the natal chart, it can tell you if somebody is going to go through transgender, or somebody is going to end up gay, bisexual, trisexual, whatever you want to call it. But there is a signature between Mercury and Neptune, and Mercury and Venus. And when I see it, I'll say to somebody in a reading, something came up in your chart and I just want to validate it. And they go, what did you see? And I said, are you into alternative lifestyles? How did you know that? The more, and Hayley said it, the more you study, I don't know everything about astrology. I could spend my whole life on this planet.
And you still would never know.
I don't know it all, and I never pontificate and say I do know it all. I learn every time we come on a podcast, and I'm studying constantly. I want to be as prepared as I can be when we do a show. But as Hayley was saying, there's too much to learn.
You can
And
literally spend your whole life studying astrology and
Yes.
still never reach the bottom. And that, for many reasons, is why astrology is one of my favorite subjects to study, because crystals, astrology, the things that we can never reach the bottom of are the things that I value most to learn about, because it's plentiful and exciting.
Yes.
And that full circle goes back to exactly, like Peter just made a beautiful point. That's exactly why, any astrologer worth their weight is not going to be telling you, or tarot reader or anything, is not going to be telling you, I know everything. And that's an immediate red flag in the dynamic, because all astrologers have areas of focus and things. It isn't impossible to understand and comprehend all of astrology. So you wind up gravitating towards things that might be in your personal chart to understand yourself. And that might be your gateway into getting into astrology. And then say, I spend 3 years, the better part of my 20, 30 years studying this area of things. So maybe it's my relational dynamics, or maybe it's like whatever it is that's presenting in my chart is a focus area of what I offer my clients. And Peter's area would be a different focus based on his chart. And that's what's the beauty, is it all flows into it. So as you're finding different, like every astrologer has several astrologers, every tarot reader has several tarot readers. Like Theresa was saying before, we all need each other because we all have varying lenses and experience and focuses that then bring to light whatever the message is and that's why it's so important for the clients and people viewing to trust and pay attention to their intuition. If they are drawn to a certain person, there's a reason for why they're drawn to that certain person, because they need
time that they're drawn to that person too.
Yeah. There's messages coming through for, like, there's a connection that needs to be address, or should, if you're in tune with your intuition and you don't doubt that, you go, okay, well, I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna schedule a reading with Theresa. I'm gonna pick up the phone and I'm gonna schedule a chart reading with Peter. And then a lot of times in these areas of expertise, you overlap because of the veil being thinner, like the paying attention. I don't know anybody that only does astrology and won't also dabble into psychic and won't also dabble into other elements, numerology, things like that. And that's what's so beautiful about this podcast, is you're bringing everyone together and creating that community where people can see the interconnectedness of the different areas, and then understand better what they want to start heading into or understanding about themselves. And then they have all of the people to be able to reach out to through this podcast.
And the other thing too is I love that sorry, Peter, love that we all work together, and when you were talking about the nodal axis, I was just thinking to myself how soothing it has been for me to be with you guys during the transition from going from Aries and Libra, which is like big in my chart. It was a heavy placement, but it was strictly fire and air. And when that axis changed, January 11th, Hayley has been my MVP. Peter has Capricorn sun. Chris has a Taurus moon. Hayley is just earth on earth with some earth and water on top. So it's like it feels like a cool spring to me, because I'm like, my life force is been drained. It's a lot.
Wait, the fire's being diminished at the moment. What do I do with myself?
One thing that did it freeze?
Yeah, I'm sure she'll come right back.
Yeah, I'm back. Here we are.
The one thing that I found out on my own volition was I discovered something that I don't think anybody in the United States had. And what I discovered is, if I break down my natal chart, I can pinpoint exactly, as you briefly mentioned, Theresa, I can go to the casino and with billionaires and millionaires, and I consider it a machine and decide, all right, today I'm going to be Donald Trump, tomorrow I'm going to be Rockefeller. And I sit down at the machine and I watch the machine go off. And I spoke to somebody who owns an astrology company, and they said, Peter, if you can prove this in any way or show it, we will lease it from you and you name your price. And I called a casino and I'm in negotiations to lease it. but five astrologers said to me, it's impossible. This doesn't work. And I said, well, I've done it. I've done it. And by doing it years ago, and I told you, I did it for a year and a half and actually hit for $2.5 million.
I think Peter has the Midas touch. That's my personal opinion.
So I have two questions really quick, not to interrupt you, but when is your availability for me to book a session? And two, I wonder if it's because people were operating in that, not to bring it up because it's spoken about so much and there's so much other things that are important too, but that Pluto shift into Aquarius and that age of Aquarius and the shift from 3D to low 4D. And that is like, people don't understand that changes the game, that changes our perception.
When Pluto went into Aquarius, is that what you're talking about, Hayley?
That and everything kind of shifting
everything shifting. What's happened now is we have to adapt to this shifting, as you mentioned, with the axis, because years ago the Earth has been knocked off of the axis, and we are all trying desperately to find that equanimity in our chart. I'm still working on that. But there's medical astrology, there's legal astrology, there is business astrology, there's gambling astrology. There are so many different
industry charts. Like there's
industry charts, and I follow the stock market. What's that?
I said there's charts for past lives too. Now tell us the ways of astrology in the stock market, Peter. Don't hold back. we'll extend the podcast for an hour.
Well, no, I've used the stock market astrology chart at the casinos, and that's it. So people can't tell me that the astrology doesn't. And I had a dream about doing this years ago. And from the dream, I started applying it, and I have a whole list of natal charts that I use. So there are so many fields that we haven't discovered as yet with astrology. But as Hayley has said so directly and succinctly, with the, when we look at a conjunction where two planets are within 30 degrees, there's ease. When there is an opposition between two planets, you see those two planets fighting one another. The more stress.
I don't think that's just about fighting. So this is what I wanted to say later. Hayley is a Taurus. I'm a Scorpio. We are opposites in so many ways. We do not fight. Yeah. We've never had one fight, thank God. But what she brings to the table for me is a mirror. We see each other in each other, and we can point out where the other person has a blind spot and say, hey, did you see this? And it is a gift to have that.
She balances you on what you may not have been born with, and you balance her with what she made. When you have the incongruities in your chart, it just means that we both live up. Your sign, I believe your sun is in Sag, correct?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, no, it's in Scorpio.
Oh, all right. I'm sorry. You on what? All right. Scorpio also has the energy of Taurus. You are living in with your natal chart. You're not just going to be Scorpio. You're going to be Scorpio and Taurus. If somebody is, I'm a Capricorn, but I also possess Cancer. So we each have the polarities in our chart, and where we feel the weakest, we can work on those. So with the oppositions, there's stress in the chart. With their squares, there's stress in the chart. With the conjunction, there's ease. But you have to take the totality of the chart. And the other thing is, every week we progress it with the solar chart. We have to, we progress it for a year and see exactly how the progress charts align with our natal charts. And a lot of people just deal with the solar chart or the moon chart. So there are so many different facets. That's why at times I'm very intense when I come on here, because I want to make sure what I'm disseminating is the right information.
That's true. And it's like crystals a lot of the time where people talk about, oh, this sign and this sign get along, this sign and this sign don't. It's the same thing with crystals where people talk about metaphysical properties. If two people love each other, it doesn't matter what their signs are. They're going to make it work.
Yes.
And we've been here for a while now, and you've been talking nonstop. So, I mean, I just want to give you a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah. What you mean from all that you've done so far?
She's our anchor. She's anchoring the energy of this.
So we all don't fly away.
I actually was waiting for one of you to bring up. I'm kind of surprised no one actually has, and that's the fact that even when we were in the Aries Libra North Node South Node, those are both cardinal signs. Now we're going into
mutable.
It's a mutable sign. Yeah. Exactly.
From masculine and feminine in terms of like what Hayley's talking about with the astrology of that, also having that mutable versus the cardinal. Those are two very different elements in itself.
I think that absolutely takes the cake for 2025 too, is that we're learning to be in flow. This is why the whole podcast, oh my God, talk about an anchor. Woo! The entire podcast is talking about the energy that we're going to be in for 2025 and all the changes that we're going through. Control, cardinal, if we're coming from the mental energy, it's not going to work for us anymore. We're being brought into our ascension, into our spiritual energy, being pulled through and asking to be led by our soul rather to be led by the mind. We're disconnecting from that matrix, as Peter said from the beginning. We're going to new earth now. We're climbing higher to go home, and there's going to be a lot of changes that take place. And I teach a class called Shadow Work and Surrender, which we did earlier today. And one of the things that I was saying to the group that I was working with is nobody expects things like the fires in Palisades. Nobody expects things like the tornado that ran through Florida, but these things happen. And if these things happen when we least expect them, here's a tool for how to deal with it. Be grateful and present while you have what you have. And when things pivot or things change, understand that the entire world and all of its properties, the entire solar system, the multiverse is all about change. We can't control it. We don't get to dictate it. We have a role that we play in it. We can play a role with ourselves. I mean, Denise is here with us. The example that I gave in class is when the 9/11 towers hit, and she was there for it. And she went to her brother-in-law's place without even knowing the address because she had developed such an acute relationship between her and Source, her and her, that she was able to follow that guidance to get to a place where she was divinely orchestrated to be. If not for her relationship where she checked in on a daily with her and her, where would she have been led to at that time? And how would have she responded at such a time when she's watching the two twin towers fall, not even thinking about that this could potentially be a life experience that she would ever had? Things happen. People passed away. Like this week I had go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I want to say the fires in California were actually predicted in part by Michel Nostradamus, who was one of the most famous astrologers and doctors in France. So what we're going through now, Michel Nostradamus had predicted it. I also found out that some other astrologers and psychics also saw this happening. This is not over yet because the new Earth that we're heading towards, there's going to be a lot of damage done in the United States. But for the enlightened people, and I'm getting calls about this, they're saying, what are we going to do? We are headed, the light workers are headed for the newer Earth, the newer planet. I also want to say to you, more people are talking about Pluto aspecting and transitioning into Aquarius, because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus and Saturn, and we are being pulled up, not down. We're being pulled up to the heavens. We're being pulled up to technology, to a higher level of spirituality. This has all been predicted. And if people haven't read about Nostradamus, I would implore them to do it because this was predicted over 2,000 years ago.
Peter, the other thing too is that the sun is joining Pluto right now. The sun is at 0 degrees in Aquarius. Pluto's at 1 degree in Aquarius, and that solar is going to charge up Pluto and vice versa. So while we're traversing this Pluto, Mars little combat that we have going on, Mars being an inside planet in retrograde right now, one of the main reasons I wanted to bring that up was because it can feel like we're walking through jello. It can feel like we're not quite in the flow that we want to be. I feel very affected by that, but I have a lot of cardinal positions. Like, and then, you know, same thing. It's a funky energy right now. And we want you to know that you're not alone and how to make the best of it. And the only way you can make the best of something is if you can understand the something. And, you know, aside from astrology, as we say on Lighten Up Zen Life, go within, find yourself, be happy. Make time to meditate and go within on a daily basis, even if it's just taking a couple breaths throughout the day. Your relationship between you and Source is the most important relationship now more than ever. It will literally be your tool guide for how to go through anything and everything, whether you're in the world or of the world. And astrology is a great tool to piggyback underneath it because astrology will give you some direction in your life. There's been a lot of times, whether it was something that I studied myself with Chris, Peter, Hayley, even right up until yesterday, that using me astrology has given me a map. Hayley was saying to me yesterday, you know, I'm putting together Feast for the Soul, February 7th, and I'm usually a very fiery person. And I was like, my energy is so impacted right now. I don't know why I'm so tired. I mean, aside from a brain trauma, but like, I don't know why I'm so much. Everything just feels like I'm just off elementally. And she goes, well, you have a lot of fire in your chart. You don't have a lot of water. You don't have a lot of earth. You're fire and air, and your fire and air is being asked to slow down and learn from the elements that we're in right now. We're in water, we're in earth, and she's having a wonderful time because she's in her element. And I'm like, you know, it's a switch up for us. But I find that when I spend my time with her, I feel incredibly, it's like a therapeutic, soothing experience because she's my tour guide and helping me to navigate these energies. And even knowing that is so important to me personally. Even Chris and I, another aspect of a synastry chart, when you have a moon placement, that how the relationship between your sun and moon, someone else's sun and moon, and vice versa has a lot to do with it. Chris and I are called the twins. We are together all the time. We finish each other's sentences. We're siblings. I'm Scorpio sun. She has a Taurus moon, oppositional. I'm an Aries moon. She's a Libra sun, oppositional. We are the exact opposite, and we come together in perfect balance all the time.
But you sign the contract with the elders in heaven.
I brought the elder with me, in fact. No.
No. You two received approval from the elders in heaven to come in, and because of your mother passing, you decided, your parents, how you were going to live your life, and you're in the contract right now. I work with a woman named Judy Goodman. I don't think she'll get mad at me, but Judy is world-renowned. She has written a lot of books, and we were talking about the contract that we all signed. Our births are not just randomly chosen. They tell us what aspects in our life we have to work on, and they create the parents and the family for us to come in and to delve into working with those. So God, the genius behind God, is everything is synchronicity. Everything is universal law. People have said to me, you know, why did I have an accident? It wasn't an accident. You knew before you came in that certain things were going to unfold and happen, and we're supposed to learn even natally. When I see something in opposition with planets, or I see something is squared, I will call the person and say, be very careful traveling, because if there's stress there in their chart, chances are, if they're not careful, they're going to end up in an accident, but I am in awe of our Creator. I actually am. And this is the other thing I was taught. When we have new discoveries in science, in math, in medicine, they have already been created by God. We're just manifesting them on this planet. But all the knowledge has already been, God is feeding us that knowledge. So,
Because
so it's absolutely, I mean, incredulous as to the ability of our Maker.
Because it is external and internal, we are all fractals of God.
Absolutely.
So that's also why we all need each other and each other's energy. And I think that's what's so beautiful if you're able to pull back and to realize that there is no separation, that all of these elements were just broken into for this incarnation and this world and this duality in order to learn things from each other. But we are actually all this, we are all source. We are all the same one. Creator. We are all one.
Absolutely.
Which is, it's absolutely. Like a simple thing to say and a very deep thing to fully understand and integrate, because it's not something that's easy. It's not something you don't want to just use, use it for spiritual bypassing of like trauma processing and different things like that. Like you need, it's a journey. And I think what we were saying too is, change is the only constant, and without change, there is no growth.
There's no growth.
And that, I think, was, just a summary of what everyone was just saying that I was listening to right now. And like, that's, it's necessary to, Mika is like accentuating this. Mika,
she wants to get her message in. She wants to get her message in.
He is very attuned to like when everything is at a high vibration and energy and reading and everything. Like he is just like, hey. And there's actually two of them, and they're Gemini, and they're the two sides of Gemini. One's really chatty and one's silently sitting in the corner, like allowing the transmutation of communication and information. So we're supported by the animals. But yeah, it's if you lean into, so the change is the only constant, and without change, there is no growth. And then lean into that axis shift. Right now, we're being supported by, we have the grounding of the earth, and we're heading into the water. So now shifting even more so, like we do need the grounding, but we can also go with the flow and let go of a little bit. Like we're heading into a period of time where we all, on a personal and a collective level, do not have the grounding that we, trust me, I am a Taurus. I feel it deep. We don't have the stability and the grounding that we want in order to feel like stable and safe and like know where we're going. But that's the shift, is we're now shifting into that Piscean, the master of the waters, the furthest along in the sign before Aries. Like that is that final energy that's like, okay, like trust in Pisces is a spiritual. Pisces is the going with the flow. It's, you don't have to necessarily be grounded, although don't be too ungrounded. So it's like helping us with that axis, that nodal shift is helping us. It's really here to support us in this huge collective and personal shift in our lives that's going on right now.
I feel like when you grab the end of the nodes, that if you stand on the top, it's like a slingshot. You hit the bottom so that the north node can slingshot you into what's coming up and be ready for that energy. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that I feel like we needed that cardinal fiery driven energy to go from the third to the low fourth. But now that we're in low fourth, aiming or ascending into the fifth, that we do need to have more of that mutable energy. That's more go with the flow, be easy, receive, relax, especially with divine femininity, which is all about receiving. We were very giving on our energy to get here. Now it's time to receive and reap the reward of that.
That's a really solid. Look at you holding us down.
Let's go for it. Let's go for it, Kristen. Wow.
She's fantastic.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to clarify with this. Earth just moved into low fourth, but the masters, all the people who are on Earth right now, they're in all different levels, and it doesn't serve us as beings to be in a low fourth space. It serves us to be in high fourth and above. How do we do that? Go within. So even though the earth is moving up, that's what we came here to do. In Pisces age, we had to do what we came in to do as masters, as light beings, to get from Pisces into Aquarius age. We got into Aquarius age. Now the work that we came in to do, it's been done. Now it's about shining our light, giving our gifts, giving our love, coming together, remembering, reintegrating into the whole of source, and remembering we are source, we are community, we are oneness. And even if there's weird pieces that don't fit together yet, it's okay. We don't have to force them. They'll find their way back some way, somehow, without us trying to jam them together.
And as you're explaining that, I'm visualizing the tower card, and I'm seeing that the building, you know, is being struck by lightning and is falling, and everything is tumultuous, but also there is the ground and it is going nowhere, and then there is the sky. And that to me is very much that Virgo Piscean axis too. And it can be, I have to when I visualize, I'm like, and then I see, because I actually see it in my eye. But what Theresa was saying too, with just to add on that slingshot idea of the nodal axis, it's a slingshot, but it's also a slide. So like that. I'm seeing Sag, like the Sag, but the fire is so strong in this one.
Right.
Peter was doing the dip.
So there is that. There is that.
Dipper dip. I'm almost 40 now. I'm allowed to be this old.
I'm ready for the slingshot.
So there is that slingshot of towards from the south to the north, but there also is that slide from the north to the south.
Yeah.
So like that's what we have to be attentive to, because it's like a spectrum, and we are supposed to be shifting up the spectrum towards whatever that sign is to understand something about that energy. So that's where it's like that duality, the polarity of the axis.
We also see in those energies too, air feeds fire, earth gives water a place to flow through. So like I always feel like to if you were really going to attain that balance, and Hayley, your energy and your messages have been helping me understand this a lot lately, is that, you know, my mom always said to me, Theresa, you never let the grass grow under your feet. You're here, you're there, you're here. You glide. You're everywhere, and your energy is abundant and fiery, and you can get people together, and that's your comfort zone. But being grounded and touching the earth and growing something, I don't know if I've ever touched it. I mean, I think once or twice. I mean, thank God. I mean, hi, you've been holding me down for a minute. So to be now kind of like thrusted into, it's time to grow, especially with Pluto, because Pluto just entered into my second house, which is time to grow. It's time for me to put down roots and to know what that feels like, and then water those roots, which is the message that Hayley's been giving to me over and over. And I think last night we had this powwow conversation about astrology, the podcast, all these different projects that we've been working on. And she's like, you know, your inward desire and the experiences, the energies, the feelings that you're navigating right now, you're being asked to plant roots and water them, which is so far out of your comfort zone, but something that you've been wanting for a long time. If you work with the energy that's being presented to you, even if it's not your strong suit, you'll develop it into a strength, learn how to work with it. And to me, that's, again, the value of the people that you put around yourself. I'm surrounded by people that have earth in their chart right now, which is not, I normally hang out with Geminis and water signs and that sort of thing. And we're all feeding on air and fire. Peter's a Capricorn, Hayley's a Taurus, Chris has Taurus moon. It's the first time in my life I'm surrounded by all this earth energy, and I feel like they're a support system for me personally, to learn and get comfortable in the new energy that I'm in. And if you ask them, you know, I have that rah fire. Okay, let's go do that project. Let's go. You want to do it? Let's go do it. I'm usually the person who will do the project.
Scorpio is like in my head, Scorpio is the fire of the water. So it's like you have the water, but like, girl, earth, let me, like, how's Taurus? Like, how funny is that you gravitated towards somebody that literally even is starting Taurus Taurus is the ruler of the second house. Like, and that's when you're talking about how you're going into that second house with that energy. And it's just like, and that happens because it's all about balance. It's not about any sign being good and bad, which is what the general consensus is when you say like, oh, sun sign and the basic, very, very rudimentary astrology presentation we see online and things like that. It's like they're just looking at what is the sun sign and is it good or bad and does it work with this or does it not? They all have light and dark. They all have things to teach us, and they all communicate with each other in different ways. So it's not about if they work with each other or not. It's how do they communicate, because there are so many different communication styles. And that's what it teaches us in the chart too.
I agree. Peter, before you leave us, because I know you got to go. Peter had a reading, so I got to let him go to that. But here's what I need spelled out for me before you leave. Chiron is in Aries right now. Jupiter and Gemini in retrograde. The stellium in Pisces. And the elements right now. I think we talked a little bit about the elements, but the Chiron in Aries right now, Chiron is having a huge effect on us and has been. The stellium in Pisces right now, the stellium is just a compound of energy.
Let me explain what the guides are telling me right now. And I'm not wishing this. I'm not wishing this. I'm just explaining this. We're due for a wake-up call with the Aries. We're due for a wake-up call. And that has to do globally on a proactive way. The guides are telling me right now, we have been sitting and waiting and not doing anything about what's going on in society. What I want to tell you is this. My guides are saying they feel we are going to have a major insurrection in the United States on a spiritual level and on a government level and on a society level. Meaning we're going to be moving away from, all right, I'll listen to what the government has to say on a federal and state level. We're no longer going to be there. I am expecting with Donald Trump's administration, we're going to speak out, we're going to yell, we're going to finally get what we need, not only in the United States, but on a global level. And the Aries, with that Aries, it's cardinal, it's fire, it's I'm going to do, I'm going to act. I'm not going to sit back and just be a vocal. I'm not just going to vocalize how I feel. I'm going to show you how I feel. And the guides are saying to me, collectively, we are going to be supporting each other, and we are going to make this planet, I want to say Earth, we have the fire and we have the air. The air, the opposite side of Aries is Libra. So Libras, and if you look at Libras, they'll say to you, oh yeah, I'm going to go make dinner. I'm going to go make dinner. I'm going to go make dinner. And then the Aries say, stop telling you're going to go make dinner. We need change in this country. We have needed change since 1776. And I do believe that we're in this time for changes because so many people are working 2 and 3 jobs. People are depressed. People are frustrated. We can't do this anymore. And with Jupiter in retrograde in the sign of Gemini, it's time, walk the talk. So with all the planets that you're talking about, I do see global changes.
And
I was just going to say, I think there's going to be galactic interjection into these things.
Correct. The reason people are seeing drones, and in every state we're seeing more and more drones. These aren't just government. This is not just government. This is UFOs. These are aliens coming back. How do I know this? I have connections with the CIA, with the FBI. I'm not going to mention who, but we are at a time now where, and I believe we are hybrids. We are half alien. This may sound crazy, and we're half human. We can't sustain ourselves because the guides are telling me if we continue astrologically on the trajectory that we're on now, we won't be here. The Earth will be, we will not be here. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but yeah, go ahead.
The trying to clarify in my head what it is that. So without the specifics of it, like the politics and things, if you do pull back, I mean, the energy, like you're saying, we are not supported. The trajectory that we're on is not able to sustain. It's not sustainable. The food costs, the housing issues, like all of these things as a society are not. So removing the politics and then just looking at the astrology too, of like all of the major planets are going. I mean, we have a parade about to happen, and we have all of the major planets, the slower moving, larger energies are shifting this year. Yes. And this is, I mean, again, just going, instead of looking at it from a place of fear, looking at it as a place of what we have going on right now is not supporting anyone, and it's not
working.
So it's not working. It's not sustainable. It's not healthy.
We are
how do we shift now? How do we shift now? And that's why I keep seeing the image of that tower card has been the image that I've been seeing. And it's like the lead up to that, but then circling back to change is the only constant. And without the change, there is no growth. And we are here to grow and to learn. And you can look at it in a fear-based mindset, or you can look at it and that might be the split between the high and low fourth mentalities or the perspectives right now.
Exactly.
Approaching it from a space of fear, or am I embracing it from a place of, well, this wasn't sustainable, where are we going now?
Well, we have to go. We have to climb. We weren't meant to stay in the third dimensional energy.
No, because we
knew that we were going to ascend. That's why we volunteered to come in this way. So the fact that we're experiencing this now live, real time, I was joking earlier when I was with my class. I said, we saw this before in Rome. We saw this before in Egypt. We've learned history for a reason, albeit all different types of versions of it. But the people who are old souls, you've lived through something like this before, chances are. So now we're going through this shift in society. One of the coolest things is that we're able to, whether it's astrology, numerology, the energy, whether it's a psychic gift, a physical, whatever, you're able to see all of these birds and twigs, all these real-time examples that we're moving into a different energy. And instead of being afraid of what could negatively impact us, coming back to the podcast that we keep mentioning, it's already done. It's already done for us. It's a story that's been written with positivity. We will be taken care of. It is going to be okay. Even if a little chaos is on the way, we're still going to be okay. We're not from here. It's okay.
Right. But what we are going to move away from is me. I have to have. I have to buy. We're going to move away that into a collective consciousness where we are all inextricably connected, and we're here to love each other, not to be in competition with one another, not to hate people. We have created from a republic. We went from a republic to a democracy to an oligarchy, and people are fed up with the oligarchy because it's the 1% of the population that control the rest of us. So politically and astrologically and numerologically and economically, we have to help each other. The divine plan wasn't for the very wealthy to determine what our lives were going to be like and how we are going to live. The divine picture is we have lived many lives. We came down to this earth to correct on a universal level. And in order to survive, we've got to support each other. We can't say, well, Theresa, I'm going to be wealthier than you are, and you're not going to have enough money, but I'm a billionaire. That's not the way God wants it. That's not the way the universe wants it.
And abundance is unlimited. And that's what you're speaking of, is the bringing in of the Aquarian energy of the we and the how do we relate to others, and also the Piscean North Node, because now it's going from Aries, which is I am, to Pisces. To we.
Yeah.
That backwards. We got to track backwards, and we got to go, whoa, let's reset. And that's what's happening right now.
That's what's happening now. Yes. And unfortunately, I've got to leave because we're celebrating a birthday tonight. But I wanted to say it was a wonderful podcast. We all did, I think, an amazing well. And I love all of you, and I'm grateful for it tonight. And I'm grateful for what we've been able to share together between us and also globally.
Absolutely. I look forward to how it's going to continue. I love that it's 2025. I'm ready for what's going to come. I'm ready to ride it out. I'm here for it. What are you going to say? You're the last word of the show.
Change is difficult. Change is emotional. It can be messy, but it's necessary because stagnation is worse.
Oof!
Woo! That's powerful. Love you all.
Well, okay, everyone. Thank you for watching another episode of Cosmic Tea Hour. We will be back. We will see you next week, and we love you until then. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.